Have you ever told someone in anger or in jest, "I'll kill you"? Did they laugh? Did they say, put a sock in it? Or did they wonder if you just might? Have you ever told someone, "If I go missing, you'll know what happened to me"? Was that another joke? Or was it a warning? A cautionary declaration? A fear spoken out loud? Welcome to Strange and Unexplained with me, Daisy Egan. I have always been late to the party. I tell gossip that everyone already knows. I didn't see Wicked on Broadway until 2019, and I only just started watching Law & Order SVU, a full 26 years after it premiered. It's a comforting show, as everyone could have told you for the past 2 decades, because Olivia Benson and Ice-T almost always get their guy before the end credits roll. If a young wife and mother of 3 goes missing, her husband will always be the first person they suspect. And even if he eventually ends up cleared, it's only after multiple interrogations in which one of the detectives inevitably slams a chair down and says something like, "Don't mess with me, pal. We got you on tape threatening her." And then they interrogate the secret boyfriend the wife was having an affair with the same heavy-handed, intimidating tactics. And then they find hairs and fibers and blood in the trunk of the wife's car that definitively prove who killed her, and that person ends up confessing. But even when they don't find their guy, it's only after using all the same heavy-handed tactics and chasing down every lead they possibly can. But that's TV, and this is real life. And sometimes, after a young wife and mother goes missing, no hardened but determined detective slams any chairs or yells in anyone's face, or does even the most basic of police work. And the usual suspects walk away and live the rest of their lives seemingly like nothing happened. And sometimes I find a story that everyone should know, but for some reason doesn't. And I am, for once, not the last person to arrive at the party. Even though it's a party no one would ever want to go to. By now, we all know that when one half of a couple goes missing or dies suspiciously, the spouse or partner is always the first suspect. It seems these days if a spouse sneezes weird after their partner dies, they get extra scrutiny. The same, it seems, cannot be said in the case of Bianca Carrasco, who either managed to successfully pull off her own willing disappearance or was the victim of the perfect crime. A crime for which police seem satisfied her husband did not commit. Bianca Carrasco was only 18 when she married 29-year-old Joe Carrasco, who goes by his middle name Daniel. The two were married after Bianca became pregnant with their first child sometime in 2005. The couple had 2 more children over the course of their 11-year marriage. But Daniel and Bianca knew each other before they were romantically involved. Before he was her husband, Joe Daniel Carrasco was Bianca's uncle through marriage. So that's weird. Not gross necessarily, but weird. He was 11 years older than her, and she had only just become a legal adult. I don't know much about either of them before they got married, but it's worth pointing out that only 5 years earlier, when Daniel would have been 24, Bianca was 13. They knew each other then. Have you met a 13-year-old lately? Have you met an 18-year-old for that matter? Most of the information we have about this case comes directly from Bianca's family. Understandably, they seem to have decided not to go into too much detail about how the two got together or what the breakup between Daniel and his first wife, Bianca's aunt, was like. But we do know the whole thing caused some strain in the family. Bianca studied at Odessa College until 2013 when she and Daniel left their hometown to move to San Antonio. In San Antonio, Bianca attended the Gallon School of Nursing and graduated as a registered nurse in October of 2015, at which point she got a job at an oncologist's office. So Bianca was killing it, career-wise. She somehow managed to finish school and enter a caring profession while taking care of 3 kids. I struggle to reheat leftovers with 1 child. Some accounts of the Carrasco's relationship said it began to turn rocky once the couple moved to San Antonio, while others say it was rocky from the start. Bianca's sister Giovanna Burney said that she often felt Daniel tried to isolate Bianca from her family. Despite that, though, she told NewsNationNow.com that Daniel, quote, frequently shared their troubles with family members, end quote. Honestly, I don't totally get the scope of Bianca and Daniel's relationship with each other and her family. Bianca was certainly estranged from her mother, Barbara Telementes. The two had not spoken in 5 years. Whether this estrangement was because of the unorthodox relationship between Bianca and Daniel and its fallout, or if there was another reason, is unclear. So things sound a little confusing. On one hand, it seems strange to me that Daniel kept Bianca isolated, but that he still had enough contact with her family to complain to them about having problems in their marriage. But hey, family dynamics are weird. Ask anyone who just spent the holidays with their family. Still, regardless of strain in other parts of the family, Bianca managed to stay close to her sister Giovanna. The two sisters would talk on the phone and text often, even if the 4-hour-plus drive from San Antonio to Houston, where Giovanna lived, prevented them from seeing a lot of each other. Giovanna said of her sister in a 2023 piece about Bianca on yourbasin.com, quote, she was just so funny, so loving, would do anything for anybody, end quote. This is just one of so many quotes like this about Bianca by Giovanna. In 2024, she told News Nation Now, quote, she was very compassionate. That's what made her a wonderful nurse, end quote. And maybe most bittersweet is the quote from a July 2024 interview about Bianca on News 4 San Antonio. Quote, she is really loved and missed. Sometimes when I speak about it out loud, it still doesn't seem real, end quote. Bianca is missed, stranger, because on the evening of May 1st, 2016, she disappeared without a trace. Bianca came home to put her kids to bed, made a phone call, allegedly had a fight with her husband, and then, to hear him tell it, walked out of her home, her family, and her life. She didn't take her car, she didn't take her belongings, she didn't even take her phone. She didn't say goodbye, and she didn't come back. Bianca just ceased to exist in the life she had carved out for herself. And her sister says it doesn't add up. And frankly, so do I. Strangers, 3-Day Blinds is back. I recently stayed at my parents' place, and goddess love them, but they are bad at blinds. Every time we visit, without fail, as the sun is setting and blaring into the living room, they say, we really need to get blinds. It's going on 4 years now. Honestly, I don't know what the holdup is. Unless they don't listen to my ads and so don't know that 3-Day Blinds could have them measured, fitted, and outfitted in, well, 3 days. Perhaps I need to text them my code, 3dayblinds.com/strange, so they can buy one set of blinds and get another half off. That way they can also put blinds in the guest bedroom. I know, this is all very radical thinking. With 3-Day Blinds, you choose from thousands of options that fit any budget or style, and with actual samples, you won't be guessing about what your blinds will look like. Right now, get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3-Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/strange for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/strange. One last time, that's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to the number 3dayblinds.com/strange. Bianca's sister Giovanna has consistently been the most vocal and visible advocate for Bianca since her disappearance that late spring evening. Giovanna has appeared on nearly a dozen podcasts and in as many articles asking, begging listeners, readers, and law enforcement to bring Bianca home. I reached out to her myself with some questions for this episode, and she was more than willing to give whatever information she had. Even now, 8 years later, she still keeps the search for Bianca going, using any emerging platform to try to put Bianca's unsolved disappearance in front of as many people as possible. Another thing Giovanna has done consistently since the disappearance of her sister is be a voice of suspicion regarding Bianca's husband, Daniel Carrasco. For Giovanna, Daniel's story that Bianca left on foot after a fight with him, without her car or belongings, abandoning her children never to return, didn't sit right. And it seems like Giovanna would know. After all, she was one of the people Bianca confided in that she'd been having an affair. According to an October 2023 piece in YourBasin.com, quote, Bernie said she spoke with her sister multiple times during the week leading up to her disappearance because of ongoing arguments Carrasco was reportedly having with her husband, end quote. Giovanna was quoted for the piece saying there was, quote, a lot of drama. I'd been talking with her every day leading up to that day, trying to figure out what was going on because there was just a lot of drama between her and her husband. I just wanted to make sure they were okay, end quote. Bianca also told friends about her affair, clearly telling them she wanted to leave her husband. Coworker Julie Stinson was somewhat less inclined to think suspiciously about Bianca's husband at first. A May 2024 story in News Nation says, quote, Julie Stinson met Carrasco in nursing school when they were both young moms. She said Carrasco's husband was often away working on the oil fields, but to her, they seemed like a cute couple. I saw him tie her shoes whenever she was pregnant, instead of her having to bend over, Stinson said, end quote. Daniel's solicitous shoe tying notwithstanding, and let's be clear, tying your pregnant wife's shoes is a pretty low bar. Shortly after Bianca graduated nursing school, she was ready to keep making big changes in her life. According to a 2017 article about Bianca's disappearance in mysanantonio.com, quote, she had also asked for a divorce from her husband and had changed her status to divorced on Facebook, end quote. Not even it's complicated, folks. Because, it seems, for Bianca, it wasn't. She wanted to split. She told her sister, her friends, and her coworkers as much. And in spite of still living with Daniel, she started casually seeing other people. Daniel was nonplussed by this. He was not around a lot. He still commuted to work in Odessa, but he had no desire to separate from Bianca, and when, days before her disappearance, he discovered her dalliances by snooping on her cell phone, he took action to try to stop her from leaving him. According to the mysanantonio.com piece, Bianca sent her sister this text, quote, Daniel emptied the account and opened another account without my name on it, so I have no access to money except my credit card, which is almost at the limit. I will not be controlled by a man and money, end quote. This kind of behavior, to be clear, is abuse. Cutting someone off from their finances is a form of control. In a loving partnership, no person should be in control of anything, ever, except of their own business. To say things with Daniel were tense would be putting it mildly. Bianca's co-workers shared a chilling memory that Bianca had told them jokingly on the Friday before her disappearance, quote, well, if I go missing, you know what happened to me, end quote. Listen, stranger, if someone says this kind of thing to you, don't LOL it. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be like, ugh, if I'm late again, he's gonna kill me. It's another to be like, if I die, he did it. Bianca was determined to move forward with her plans for divorce. She had an appointment with a divorce attorney at the end of the week where she intended to make her desire official. As she said, Bianca's sister reached out to Bianca a lot that week before she went missing, right up until May 1st when Giovanna had her final conversation with her sister. The interview on YourBasin.com quotes Giovanna about that conversation. Quote, she seemed very calm, but she described her husband's behavior as creepy. She said she'd made a decision about seeing a divorce lawyer, end quote. The piece continues, quote, Bernie said she told Carrasco to bring the children and come stay with her until things settled down. But Carrasco didn't think it was necessary. Giovanna said, so she was just very calm and had a plan of action, and that was the last time I spoke to her, end quote. After her conversation with her sister that afternoon, Bianca was out and about doing errands. She kept in touch with one of her children throughout the day and came home around 8 p.m. She put her kids to bed. We know from the phone records that Bianca sent a text and called a man she was seeing. That was the last phone activity recorded for Bianca. It was sometime later that evening, Daniel says, that Bianca walked out of her home and never came back. According to News Nation Now, quote, Carrasco's husband reportedly said she had left their San Antonio home on foot, and he passed her a short time later when he left for work, taking their youngest child with him, but leaving their 9 and 10-year-old children at home, end quote. Listen, I know that for some families, childcare is an issue, but leaving your 9 and 10-year-olds at home alone at night? Also, he took their youngest with him when he left for work? Giovanna told me it was absolutely out of the ordinary for the children to be left home alone, and Daniel didn't bother to call anyone to try to get childcare for the night. At 10:22 p.m., phone records show that Daniel made a phone call, though I could not find out to whom. And it was around that time that Bianca's phone was switched off and was never turned back on again. The next day, Bianca did not respond to any of her sister Giovanna's texts or calls. Giovanna was instantly alarmed because it was very out of character for Bianca to be so unresponsive. She contacted Bianca's job and found out that her sister had not shown up for work and had not called in. This was also out of character. Bianca had a strong work ethic, the same work ethic that allowed her to put herself through school while raising 3 kids. She would never just not show up for work without so much as a phone call. By 4 p.m. the next day, Giovanna called Daniel. He had been unresponsive to the increasingly panicked texts she'd been sending throughout the day. When they finally talked, he told her that he and Bianca had fought the night before and that she left. When Giovanna later reported this conversation with Daniel to the police, she mentioned that he told her all of this very calmly and that she thought it was very strange. News Nation quoted Giovanna, quote, Bernie said his calm answer was a red flag to her. For weeks, he'd been contacting anybody who would listen, then all of a sudden, Monday, I get a hold of him and he's calm and has no concern about where she's at, Bernie said. That doesn't add up to me. Giovanna then called the police to file a missing persons report, end quote. Your Basin also interviewed Giovanna about her concerns about her phone call with Daniel. Quote, I told him I haven't been able to get a hold of Bianca and asked what's going on. He said, no, she left last night. I was puzzled. He said she walked away from the house, and that was even more puzzling. I could have seen her maybe leaving in her car, but to walk? That was very weird. End quote. Giovanna called the police. She filed a missing persons report. When she spoke to the San Antonio Police Department, they told her initially that she needed to call the Houston police as she herself was a resident of Houston. The logic of that escapes me entirely, stranger, but then I'm no cop. Once she got in touch with the Houston police and gave her statement, they asked Giovanna why Bianca's husband had not called the police himself. She had no answer for that and encouraged them to please talk to him directly. So because of Giovanna, San Antonio police did interview Daniel. Daniel told police about their argument and told them the same story he told to Giovanna, that Bianca had left the house on foot. He saw her on the road from his vehicle as he was driving to work with their youngest child in the car. He said he believed she was heading home to their other 2 children, whom he had left alone, but Bianca never made it. The children later called Daniel at work to tell him their mother hadn't come back. He told them he couldn't leave work until 3 p.m. The job site was 5 hours away, so he didn't arrive home until around 8 p.m. But here's the thing, stranger. Ready for this? According to Giovanna in an email to me, quote, Daniel works and has worked in the oil fields in West Texas, 5 hours from their home in San Antonio. At the time, he did not have a job in place. Imagine my frustration that law enforcement did not take the time to use this piece of information for their investigation, end quote. Daniel didn't have a job at the time. Now listen, it's possible Giovanna is wrong. Who knows? Maybe he did have a job in place at the time. But it seems that investigators knew he didn't have a job at the time, and it didn't factor into the investigation. How can that be? Also, even if he did have a job, 5 hours away? I get that times can be tough and you take work where you can, but who is commuting 10 hours to get to and from a job with 3 kids at home and no contingency for childcare? Plus, you've left your spouse with no access to money? What if there was an emergency? And what kind of boss won't let you leave early when you tell him your wife is missing and you have a 4-year-old just, hanging out in your car while you work? What planet are we on? Strangers, Ollie is back. I can't tell you how much my dogs love Ollie. I am a convert. With absolutely no harmful fillers, no preservatives, Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world. With 3 meal plans to choose from, you can choose between a full fresh plan, fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special fur baby. They also have treats and supplements. Plus, if your dog, like mine, is allergic to chicken or any other protein, there's still plenty others to choose from. I'm telling you, if you have dogs that you love, treat them and yourself to Ollie and see the difference. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste test a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/strange. Tell them all about your dog and use code STRANGE to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/strange and enter code STRANGE to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. After his interview, the missing persons report reflected that Daniel learned that Bianca was having an affair. It also said that he drained their bank accounts and that he took Bianca's phone. In the investigation, right after Bianca disappeared, the police received a lead saying that Bianca had been with a male friend the day of her disappearance, so they followed up. Apparently, the man's mother confirmed that a woman was at their house that day. She also said that the woman's husband picked her up at about 4 p.m. It is unclear whether that woman was Bianca. Either way, that lead went nowhere. Both Bianca's husband and the man Bianca was dating were supposedly looked into by the police, but though foul play was never ruled out, neither man was declared a person of interest or a suspect in Bianca's case. In fact, there have never been any suspects named in Bianca's case. Listen, I'm no detective, but for the love of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the man claimed to have gone to a job 5 hours away, and he didn't have a job. And this, stranger, is everything that is available about Bianca's case. So the police looked into the 2 men, but how deeply? How long and hard did they investigate this case of a missing mother of 3 young children? In reading the research, it does not appear that Bianca and Daniel's home was ever searched by law enforcement. In spite of documentation in the report that Daniel took Bianca's cell phone, there is nothing anywhere suggesting that the police have ever had Bianca's phone in their possession. I don't know why that would be, but it does seem to be consistent with what appears to be a lack of investigative rigor by the police in this case. Is it possible Bianca left her home on foot on her own, as her husband suggested? Yes, I guess. It's possible. It's also possible that I could win a National Book Award, but I'd have to write a book first. The point is, anything is possible. But according to what information we have, and according to those who really know Bianca, it all seems highly unlikely. Bianca was, by all accounts, a dedicated nurse who worked diligently to get her degree and to find a job in her field. Bianca was a loving and dedicated mother as well. She wanted a divorce, not to relinquish custody of her kids. Why would she just walk away from kids who needed her and from everything and everyone she loved? And and she left without any of her belongings, including her cell phone. Yet, for some reason, her phone was turned off about 2.5 hours after she left. I'm sorry, but no woman walks out of her house at night without her phone. Even if she just needed to walk it off or whatever, she would have grabbed her phone. For no other reason than to call her sister, with whom she spoke frequently. You mean to tell me she had a huge fight with her husband and walked out without at least the intention of calling her sister to process the fight? And who turned her phone off? Don't you think if your spouse walked out without their cell phone, you would keep it on in the hopes that someone might call and you could let them know to be on the lookout for them? Bianca had a plan for the future that was never executed. People typically don't make plans when they are just going to bail. She had appointments that she never kept. People don't make important appointments when they know they are going to walk away. She had friends and family she never contacted again. People don't stay in constant contact with their community only to cut off all communication without warning. None of that tracks with who Bianca's friends and family knew her to be. But all these years later, her case remains unsolved, and her family and her 3 kids have no idea what happened to her. The police have precious few leads and seem to have done precious little to follow up on those leads. They never even interviewed the husband until Giovanna insisted on it. And according to Giovanna in her email to me, quote, "Police will still not give me a clear answer about what they did as far as forensic testing on the cars." End quote. In 2017, Daniel Carrasco moved back to Odessa with the children. He was approached there several times by the true crime online news outlet The Crime Watch Daily. CWD asked Daniel to speak on the record, assuming that with an unsolved case and so much doubt about him circulating around the internet, that he would like the chance to clear his name. But he refused. Instead, San Antonio police spokesman Officer Douglas Green spoke with the investigative news team, telling them that Carrasco had cooperated with the case, but initially did not file a police report for the disappearance of Bianca because, quote, he thought she would come back. Some people, they go missing. They're adults. They just don't want to be contacted, end quote. Daniel Carrasco's attorney, Joseph F. Holscher, also released a statement, quote, "The Carrasco family is deeply grateful for the kind thoughts and prayers of so many people as they continue trying to adjust to their new lives. Joe and the children remain hopeful for Bianca's safe return." End quote. Ah, yes, thoughts and prayers. My favorite. Thoughts and prayers are cold comfort to the people close to Bianca, still missing her, still wondering what happened to her. Why isn't her husband among those people? Don't you think if your spouse and parent of your children disappeared into thin air, you would take any and every opportunity to shout about it from the rooftops? If my husband went missing, I would talk to every single outlet that came my way in the hopes that someone who knew something would see it and come forward. There is no universe in which not talking about the circumstances surrounding your spouse's disappearance makes sense unless you had something to do with their disappearance. Hell, if I'm wrong and I'm pointing a finger at an innocent man, let him come forward and explain his innocence, starting with how he drove 5 hours to a job he didn't have. Straighten out the facts. Clear your name. Strangers, Rocket Money is back to remind you that it's the new year, and it's time to maybe get your finances in order. The start of the new year is a perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever. Thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable. They show me all of my subscriptions right in one place and help me easily cancel ones that I forgot I've been paying for. Rocket Money also pulls together all of my spending across all my different accounts so I can clearly track my spending habits and see where I can cut back. Plus, Rocket Money can negotiate lower prices on some of your subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all their app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/unexplained today. That's rocketmoney.com/unexplained. rocketmoney.com/unexplained. 8 years after Bianca's disappearance, it still looks like most of the work on her case is still being done by her family and non-police investigators. Julie Stinson, Bianca's friend from work, went through Bianca's phone records from the day of her disappearance. It isn't clear, however, if the police have those phone records or if they ever reviewed them. The family and other concerned parties are using news media and social media to try to keep interest in and awareness of Bianca's case alive. And there continue to be questions about Bianca's husband. According to News Nation, quote, Project Absentis, a group consisting of former law enforcement members, is now posting about the case on TikTok and sending messages to Carrasco's husband. One video includes a message from the group stating they would love to give him a polygraph test to clear him since there has been so little progress in the case. End quote. It should be noted here, stranger, that while there may be good reason to suspect Bianca's husband, and inviting him to clear that suspicion might seem like a good approach, polygraph tests are, according to my opinion and according to these words by my colorful researcher, quote, less than complete horseshit because I can at least use horseshit to fertilize my garden, and polygraphs have very little to no function other than as an interrogation technique. End quote. Bianca's sister has expressed her frustration with the lack of progress in the case. She told YourBasin.com in 2023, quote, that's the most frustrating thing. All this time has passed and there's so much more that could have been done. There's been no pressure. It's shocking and frustrating, end quote. Giovanna feels that something bad has happened to her sister. In her interview with Your Basin, she went on to say, quote, what the husband told me was they had an altercation the night before she walked away. There was so much fighting prior to that night that things could have escalated. You hear this, something happened and there was a snap. I believe that something really bad happened to her. Missing persons will check her social, her driver's license. She was a registered nurse, so they check to see if there's been a license renewal, her credit cards. There's been nothing. You can't just disappear without a trace, end quote. Bianca's family maintains that she was a devoted mother who would never, ever have willingly left her children. In 2020, News 4 San Antonio quoted Officer Alicia Pruneda, a spokesperson with the San Antonio Police Department, saying, quote, the fact that she would just go without anyone knowing about her whereabouts is enough of an interest to us to make sure that we do our part of investigating her case, reassuring Bianca's family that police are not giving up on the search, end quote. Pruneda went on to say, quote, it's always our strong belief that someone knows something. Highlighting and featuring cases like Bianca's is important because it may just jar someone's memory, end quote. Her message is a major improvement on that of Officer Green, but Pruneda's update came 4 years ago, and the case is still unsolved. It seems like no one is doing much anymore to assure Bianca's family that they're doing everything, or really anything, they can to solve her case. If I've learned anything from SVU, it is that no case is ever too cold to reopen. And if Olivia Benson learned how casually Bianca's husband Daniel was looked into, she'd be livid, and she'd go after him like a pit bull. Please don't DM me about how sweet pit bulls are. Everyone from the foreman of the job he claimed to have gone to the boyfriend's mother, to anyone along the route Bianca would have walked that night would be brought in and raked over the coals. Not to mention Daniel himself. But all we get are apparently empty promises and false hope. Maybe the DA's office could use some phone calls. Nothing like the promise of solving a cold case to boost votes. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez will be up for re-election in 2026. You can call or email him urging him to properly investigate this case, or at the very least provide some information regarding if they did any forensic testing on the cars and what the results were. At least give the family some insight into what's been done to try to find Bianca. Gonzalez's phone number is 210-335-2311, and you can email him through his website. Just Google Joe Gonzalez San Antonio DA. You can also inundate him on social media if you feel like it. On May 1st of 2024, the 8th anniversary of her disappearance, billboards were erected by a nonprofit Bianca's family is working with called Season of Justice. The billboard's purpose is to honor Bianca and to humanize her case by placing her in front of the communities she had ties to. A reward of $5,000 was offered for any information leading to finding Bianca. Bianca's family continue to hope. They continue to search for Bianca so that her children can know what became of their mother. Until such time as we do get an update, all I can say is Carrasco has a tattoo of the letter B on her right hip. She's 5'1" and at the time of her disappearance weighed 125 pounds. If you have any information on her disappearance, contact the San Antonio Police Department's Missing Persons Unit at 210-207-7660. And stranger, you can remain anonymous. Next time on Strange and Unexplained. Nestled beneath the picturesque, snow-capped mountains in Colorado is a legendary hotel with a storied history. But when one novelist visited in the 1970s, he added to that story in his signature style, complete with dead twins, a decaying woman in a bathtub, and an elevator filled with blood. Was the Stanley Hotel haunted before Stephen King wrote The Shining? Or is The Shining haunting the Stanley Hotel? Strange and Unexplained is a production of Three Goose Entertainment with help from Grab Bag Collab. This episode was written by Eve Kerrigan and me, Daisy Egan, with research from the Strange Research Squad. Sound engineering by Jeff Devine. If you have an idea for an episode, head to our website, strangeandunexplainedpod.com, and fill out the contact form. I will write back. For more amazing content, join us at patreon.com/grabbagcollab, where for just $5 a month, you get all the Grab Bag exclusive shows, and for $8, you get those, plus Amber Hunt's Crimes of the Centuries and Strange and Unexplained early and ad-free. Grab Bag is an all-female and non-binary owned profit-share network where our contributors get to keep ownership of their shows. We strive to give a platform to those who might not be able to land themselves on a bigger network. Who knows? Maybe you have a podcast idea you'd like to pitch to Grab Bag. We've got live recordings, watch parties, book clubs, and more. Why there's so much going on over at Grab Bag, you'll wonder if we missed the memo on how capitalism works. Join me on Instagram at SNUPod, Daisy Egan, and Grab Bag Collab, or head to the Facebook page to join in the conversation. If you like the show, please visit a sponsor with our unique code, give us a quick review and 5 stars, subscribe and download, and tell a friend. Stay strange.